Hello, welcome to Pilates with Nicole or Nikki. Today you will need a towel or something that you can fold up to be a bolster. Basically, it needs to be big enough so that you can get your rib cage on it, so like the width of your chest and the width of your hips. As always, anything we do that feels too much, or if I'm telling you to breathe, inhale and exhale, and you need to go slower or faster, please feel free to go at your own pace at any point. And today we're going to start on our hands and knees. So you don't need the bolster just yet. We are going to start by moving our spine around and starting to think about moving breath into different parts of your body. So first off, this position, if it's right off the bat hard on your wrists, you can put more weight back in your knees. So you don't need to lean a lot into your wrists, but let's just start to warm the wrists up by having your fingers really wide. Feel like you're almost going to grip the mat just a little bit, not a lot. And draw these circles with your body over your wrists so that your wrists are getting kind of pressure in the front, on the sides, off, and then to the side again here. And you're going in one direction. And then reverse. This might be a really big movement for you if that's what you feel like your wrists need. If you're like, oh yes, this is the opposite of being on my phone, right? Or it might be really small if this is a hard position for you. Either way is fine. Range of motion is always up to you. You always want to make it work for you. So now let's just take a moment to take a break off of those wrists into your child's pose. In fact, let's walk the hands forward. The knees hopefully are open a little bit so you can get your belly inside there between your thighs. And then rest your head on the floor. If that's impossible, if you're a little tight, you can put a fist or even two fists right under your forehead to rest your head. While you're in this position, start to feel your back expand with breath. So what does that mean? That means that your body actually expands to make room for that air going into your lungs. Your diaphragm contracts and basically changes the pressure in your body so that it becomes like a vacuum and the air gets kind of sucked in. So you don't have to do the sucking yourself. You just want to think of making space in your back body, in your lower body. Come to all fours again. You're going to think about making that space in your back here as you round your spine. Look deep into your belly, tuck your tailbone towards your nose like you're a dog that's just stolen some treats, and then arch your back. Try to find a little extension or back bending in every part of your back, not just the lower back. And then on the exhale, is a suggested breath. You can round your spine. And then you can flow between these two positions with your breath. See if you can start to inhale through the nose. And you can exhale through the nose or out through your mouth. Now notice the shoulders are going to try to stay down your back the whole time, so they're not scrunching up to the ears in either direction, right? I could scrunch them, but I don't want to. I want my shoulders down so that my neck has plenty of room to take part in this cat-cow. So let's sit back into child's pose again. And this time, as you walk your hands forward, walk them over to the right side of the mat. Your right hand might even come off of your mat. Your left hand is going to stretch up and whoa, further away. And you might start to feel that stretch in the back of your armpit, the side of your body. Ooh. When our sides get tight, it can be harder to get a full breath into the side and the back of our ribs. we want to breathe basically 360 degrees around, not just in the belly, not just in the chest. Walk your hands over, but sometimes with our limited range of motion, because either we're resting a lot or just our lives might be a lot of sitting in front of the computer or in a car, we can get tight and lose some movement, just even in like simple movement of breath in our back, in our ribs. Whew. All right, so from here, gingerly, careful if you're feeling a little lightheaded from all that breath, you're gonna flip over onto your back, take your bolster, get it nearby because you're gonna lay down, place your feet flat on the mat, lift your hips up, and then get this bolster under your hips. Now, you wanna feel like it's even. If one side's kind of low, like right now mine feels a little uneven, I'm gonna try to pick the side that's more evenly folded. And then I get my hips right at the top of this towel so that I feel like the weight of my pelvis is right up top here. And now I've got a little extra space under me actually to breathe. So you can bring your hands onto your back here, kind of like off the mat and touching the rib cage, the mid lower back area. And can you breathe into your hands here? And exhaling. Can you keep your belly a little flat as you inhale into your back? So I'm not breathing into my belly, right? I'm trying to breathe actually into here so that this can stay a little more engaged. Once we start moving our legs around and working our abs, we're gonna want to be able to breathe into the back part of the body here. Into the ribs. You can take your hands to your ribs if you want to feel here too. Belly staying kind of flat. Moving all the way around. So keep that idea, snuggle in, make sure your hips feel even, bring your arms down by your side. Bring one leg up to tabletop, bring your other leg up to tabletop. Hopefully this is manageable because your hips are a little lifted off the ground. It shouldn't be too hard on your quads. So from here, you're gonna pull your belly in. So now you're a little bit more actively engaged. You're kind of flat and pulling it all across the front here of your belly, lower abs, belly button, upper abs. Notice if you can find that engagement, even the sides a little bit, just a little. And then keep it as you lower one leg down towards the mat and lift it up. Lower, and you're gonna have to feel those abs work even harder the lower your leg gets to the mat. Ooh, and lift. If it doesn't work, you might end up arching a little, which isn't good for your lower back, or you might be gripping a lot in your legs. So just keep your breath flowing. I don't care if you inhale when you lower, exhale. You might find that you prefer one way or the other. Just keep it flowing though. Notice that you try not to, you try not to stop breathing. Can you guys see? Yeah, you can see the important stuff. You can stay there, Z. One more. She's hot. She wants to. Okay, so now bring your legs up. Oh, actually, let's take a break because that was getting hard on the quads. So bring your legs back, and now this is going to get even harder. You are going to pull your abdominals in as you stretch your legs out and in. Pull your abs in as you stretch and breathe, right? They say never to have a live dog on stage with you if you're an actor, because they're always going to outperform you. They're just too real. Puppies, that is. Z, get out of the way. You don't have to see much. Basically, I'm trying to keep my belly flat. I'm trying to keep my hips still as I move my legs out and in. It's pretty hard. If you're feeling it in your hips or in your lower back, go higher up, okay? The lower you go, if you're way down here, it's really hard. It's doable, but it's more of a challenge on your belly. You got one more. I know we're doing a bunch. And then hug one knee in and stretch the other leg long. So when you're doing this, you're pulling this knee into your chest. You're actually getting a nice stretch, hopefully in the front of your hip and quad on that straight leg. Let's interlace your hands around the leg that's bent in towards your chest and start to straighten and bend it. While you're here, let's bring attention to the breath. And can you imagine your breath moving all the way down into like the bottom of your pelvis, to your pelvic floor? Just think about it. Doesn't mean a bigger breath necessarily, right? Doesn't mean, right? Because then you're just getting breath in here. It's just imagine whatever breath you need, which isn't much. We're just laying here, goes all the way down and takes that long walk down to your pelvis. Hold your leg up at the top. You can't see my foot, but I'm going to start to circle the ankle around, okay? And then reverse it. From here, bend the knee in, and let's switch sides. So stretching your right leg long. First, you hug it in. You're looking for a stretch down the front of this leg. You might feel stuff in your inner thigh on this leg. You might feel the back of this leg as well, and your glute. Ooh. It's basically like you're doing a split, right? Stretch your leg up and bend. Refocus your attention on bringing your breath down into the bottom of your pelvis. And what that really means is, again, obviously your lungs go to here-ish, right? Your breath is not going to go into your pelvis. But if you can think about your breath and therefore your diaphragm pushing and pressure going down into your pelvis, it just means that you have more room for your lungs to fill up, right? If your body can kind of help press down into your pelvis, you're going to have more room for your lungs to fill up. Circle your foot around. And then what you're doing is also you're basically stretching and contracting your pelvic floor, which is an important muscle group and for your spine support, for your lower back, your hips, and your breath. I mean, everything. And then bend the knees and put your feet down. Okay, so now that you're nice and stretched out here, let's gingerly lift your hips up into a bridge. Take this bolster out. If it's not too big, if you can get it between your thighs, you're going to give it a little gentle squeeze, placing it right between your thigh bones, feet coming in so that they're about as far apart as your knees. Really try not to go further out than your knees. And from here, you're going to find just a gentle hug on that bolster every time you exhale. So on the exhale, you're going to gently hug this towel or whatever it is and scoop your lower belly and then release. I'm not trying to squeeze it to death because then you're going to grip in your hips a lot and your groin. Ouch. Exhale, just hug it and find your lower abs and release. You can place your hands on your belly here and feel it. If you want to start thinking about your pelvic floor here, on the inhale, imagine your sit bones sort of separate. Those are the bones you sit on in your butt. They separate. And then on the exhale, think about those sit bones coming together along with your inner thighs. Inhale and exhale. So there's a sense, just like your ribs expand with breath, that your pelvic floor expands. And exhale. Let's add a bridge. So inhale, exhale, hug, tuck your tailbone and begin to peel your hips up into your bridge. The arms are gently pressing down. And then you can inhale to lower, letting that width across your pelvis. Exhale, tuck,
kind of gathering your glutes, your hamstrings, your pelvic floor, your lower abs, and then on the inhale, lengthening. And again, if the breath doesn't fit, like I didn't actually do the breath right just then, that's okay. Collarbone is staying wide while you do this. Chin is staying straight up as well. You don't need to get into a habit of tucking your chin. You want to keep the neck long. Last one, gentle hug, gathering together of all of this musculature here. And then letting it go. Take your bolster away. Hug your knees into your chest. And just use your hands on your shins here. Tuck your chin a little bit. Curl up. So I'm using my arms to help me curl up. We've been laying flat. I'm even going to kind of rock around a little bit just to warm up this sense of my upper back now curling up. And then lower it down. Hands behind your head. And you have options here. You can go legs to tabletop. That'll be more challenging. Less challenging is feet on the floor. All right, either way, you're going to gently press your head into your hands as you curl up. And lean back. So your head and your hands are very gently pressing into each other as you curl up. Why? Because we don't want to lead actually with the neck and the chin, right? If my head isn't pressing into my hands, it might jut my chin forward. So to practice not doing that, I keep my head pressing gently into my hands. Ooh, starts to wake up all this stuff. Are you breathing while you do this? Might be getting harder. Is your belly staying flat? If it's popping out, I encourage you to try to hug it back in. Ooh, let's do a few more. You might be going slower than me. That is totally fine. Last one. And hug the knees in. Lower the head down, rock your head left to right. Feet are going to come down now for a little crisscross. Hands are going back behind the head. This time, instead of curling just straight up, you're going to curl up to an angle to the right, lower down, and then to the left. Here, your hips do not need to move with you. You're going to twist sort of the upper corner of your body over. And now if you like to add something, you can lift a leg up to tabletop, lower it down as you lower. Curl up and lower. Curl up and lower. Can you keep your belly pulling in? Twist. That's really hard. If that feels impossible, it is fair for you to just focus on that. Curling up and pulling it in. Still hard for me. I'm going to do 2 more sets after this. I'm going pretty fast, more so that you can look at me anytime and then see what's happening. Feel free to go slower. Woo. And then rest. Okay, you're going to roll over. We'll first come up and grab your bolster, actually. We're going to do a little diaphragm release. Now, I've heard complaints of folks recovering from COVID of a lot of tightness around here. And, you know, I wonder if the diaphragm is just really tired out from that illness. And we're going to give it a little bit of a release, really the whole front of your body. Also, if you're tight in your abs, in your belly, if you touch here and it feels kind of tight and not like there's a lot of give, you might need a release here as well. So like I do a lot of Pilates, I'm a little tight, to be honest. So I'm gonna lay on this bolster right on the soft part of my belly. You could, if you're like, I don't feel anything, you could fold this thing up and make it really intense by having it pretty big. Whew. And it's just right under my ribs where my diaphragm attaches. And you might be right here up on your shoulders. And it might feel pretty intense.
If you don't feel anything, you might scooch it a little lower to your belly. You can kind of move around, see what feels right. If you're like, I don't feel anything, you might take your hands down and rest your forehead on your hands. Ooh, and then that becomes a lot more intense as that bolster is pushing up into your body cavity and kind of restricting the movement of your abdominal muscles and your diaphragm. You might feel the pulse of your heart in your belly here. You might feel some kind of strange stretch or sensation in your lower and mid back. Whew. And I encourage you just to try to release into it as you would if somebody was giving you a massage and you would want to melt into it. One more breath. Carefully push yourself up, get your elbows back under your shoulders. Kind of tip off of this thing, take it down and off to the side here. So this is a great release. You can do it anytime, but I did it partially right now because we're going to do an arch, a swan, and opening up the front body can really help you sometimes access the back muscles here that might be a little hard to access if you're really tight in the front. So your hands can come down by your shoulders or really wide. They could even, if you're like haven't done this in a while or you're a little scared, you could keep your elbows down and get your palms out slightly in front of your shoulders. But wherever your hands are, you're going to kind of gently press into them to let your shoulders push down your back, squeeze your legs together, pull your belly in just a little to support your back and push up into an arch. Feel that nice opening in the front of your belly and lower down. If you're doing a more classic swan, your hands are much closer to your chest and you're lifting up like this. And you don't have to come up to straight elbows right away. I really don't want to see this, right? You want to lift, reach your heart forward, let your back bend, and lower down. Squeezing your inner thighs together might feel really impossible here. You might want to splay out. I challenge you to try at least a few with your legs together. You might not get up as high, but you will get a better stretch in the front of your hips and the front of your body. And you'll also give the outer hips a break, which can be so tight from, most of us sit with our knees open or even sit on the couch like crisscross applesauce style. The hips can get tight. Let's give them a moment here. One more. Ooh. Take a moment. That was a lot. And then let's sit back into child's pose. Open the knees. Bring your hands back, your hips back and your hands forward. And then revisit that sense of breathing all the way down into your pelvis. So feeling your breath. And if you want, you can even place your hands literally anywhere on your body and think about the breath moving there. So for me, my lower back is always really tight. It's like so stiff. I'm going to place my hands on my lower back and think about breathing into it. I recommend not having your neck turned also. I'm just having it twisted here so you can hear me. Really, you could breathe into the lowest part of your spine, your pelvis. You might feel your pelvic floor stretching with the inhale here, like that space between your sit bones. Come on up. I need to check the time because my watch broke. Excellent, perfect. And then come on up to seated. And you can sit any way that's comfortable, crisscross applesauce, or you can sit on your knees if that's more comfortable, depending on kind of hip flexibility stuff. For me, actually, this is more comfortable, but you are going to take your arms out to the side, lower one hand down and take another side stretch. And while you're here, it's a little more active. Make sure your shoulder is out of your ear, that you're kind of holding yourself up, and that your arm is really reaching. It's not just flopping, it's stretching. And then you're gonna push off that arm with control to come to the other side. So there's a little bit of work here. And push. If you're like me with your knees together, squeeze your inner thighs towards each other. See if you can find that lower abdominal engagement. If you're in your crisscross, see if you can keep your hip down. I mean, that's true for any position. You don't want to be tipping your whole body. It might be a little harder though in that crisscross position. You're going to stay here and then twist and put your hand down. It may be hard to reach. You may need to bring it in somewhere. You might want to move your other hand. So whether you're sitting on your knees or crisscross, you're basically side bending and twisting now. Hopefully you're getting some kind of stretch. If you're bendy, you might not be, and that's fine. But still try to breathe into your middle and lower back, particularly into this side here that's reaching across. Walk yourself back up, turn back to center, take this hand down, reach up, and find that twist, and kind of get your hands into a good position. Ooh. You might find one side is a little harder than the other. Like I look totally straight. I'm trying to round, believe it or not. But I'm working against my scoliosis right now, so it's going to be harder for me to round. So you can use your breath to help breathe into it. Walk yourself back up. Come on up. We're going to end how we started in an all fours position with the option of lifting up into a little tabletop plank. So making sure that your wrists are under your shoulders. I know it's hard to tell sometimes, and your knees are under your hips, but basically you want to feel like your head is reaching this way, your tail is reaching this way, and your abdominal wall is pulling in and up, just like when it was pulling back when you were laying on your stomach. On your back, excuse me. So tuck your toes if you're going to do the plank. If you're like, no thanks, on plank, you're just going to maintain this position and keep breathing and pulling your abdominals in. So if you see, I'm gonna not let my belly plop, I'm gonna pull it up, right? You can try it a few times. Keep it in. Okay, so wherever you are, if you're here, just working on that transverse abdominis contraction, that is awesome. Maybe you're lifting your knees up and you're holding here. Did your spine get weird when you lifted? Try to keep your long spine. Did your belly plop down towards the mat? Try to pull it back up. Use your exhale. I'm gonna hold for another breath. See if you can hold with me. Ooh, lower down. Untuck your toes. You can give them a little tap, tap, tap. And then sit back carefully. Take a moment. You can't see my head, but you don't need to see it because you are just going to sit here and think about your breath going down into the bottom of your torso, into the sides, and into the front and back of your body. Soften your neck by kind of waving your head around a little bit, and then take one more breath. You are all done. Thank you for joining me on this little quickie Pilates focus on breath class. always feel free to leave me a comment or anything and I'll get them. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.